So again, I apologize, everybody. We're in a new office, and we have limited internet until tomorrow. So I'm streaming from my phone. I will be like Max Headroom in 1989, probably coming to you. So um, we'll go over that. So lunch with Lumbermen. I know Mike and Matt did it a few weeks ago. We're back for another episode from our new office here. Matt, can you hear me? Okay.
Yep, you're good, loud and clear.
Cool. Appreciate it. So we're going to do something a little bit different today because I'm a little bit excited about what Matt's got. Layman Lumber Guide Evolution. You'd read about it, but I wanted to let Matt explain a little bit about where he's come from, what he's setting up, and his plan for the next his plan for the next 1, 2, 5 years type of thing. Matt, I'll let you go ahead.
Sure, good.
About that.
We go back to the beginning. I guess when I started the publication, it was kind of just as a self-help thing for myself. It was pretty much just a regurgitation of Southern Yellow Pine prices. It was called the Pine Page when I first started, and I guess back in 1991, I got into forecasting. It was just kind of something I created on my own, and it's evolved into being the primary focus of what the report's about. But I just realized over the last, probably this last year, that there's through making my succession plan for my exit in the market and what I want to do with it, as I realized that there's just not a lot of education for an opportunity for people to be able to retire and get out of the business and have somebody follow along and know what they're doing about, particularly how to buy lumber, how to position themselves in the market, and really how to behave, how to trade lumber. So I'm going to spend the next couple of years focusing more on just the forecasting and trying to teach how to understand how to forecast the market, but teaching people that are in line of succession for how to be good lumber traders, particularly good lumber buyers, and teach them just the things that I've learned over 40 years.
Matt, one interesting thing, you brought up a good point, and I've been following you for forever, man. And you have a great point. Like, you get to a lot of, like, when I first joined the business, and I had a background in the retail business, the first thing everybody pitches you, and it doesn't matter if you're at a big international floor, like, it'll take you 3 years to learn how to do this, and you may not be successful then. And that was kind of, and you know what? Millennials and kids now, they don't tolerate that. They want to be taught.
They don't.
Quick. Honestly, I read about your 12 different points in here. That's pretty much as simple as that. You just have to become a master in that talent stack of buying.
And I don't even think there's that many, but I think the biggest issue most people face is how they get approached. Is they get either it's through intimidation or guilt or sympathy or obligation. There's something other than there's always just seems like some sort of manipulative angle about how you get approached to get people to give you an order. And most people that I've seen run across that are new into business are easily intimidated because they think they just because they don't have the time or they experience it, especially lumber buyers, man. Because wholesalers can be brutal. I mean, I'm a wholesaler by profession, other than doing this publication, and I'm not proud of how I did my living. I told my wife, I came over at the time, I told my wife at the time that I said, I got a confession to make. I think I lie for a living. I trade in the gray area, and I'm gonna stop doing fudging for a unit on a tally or a couple of days on a delivery, and I'm just gonna start being completely honest. And to be honest with you, my income suffered. I mean, I lost half of my business because I started to be totally honest about how I was trading lumber. That's kind of what led me out of the business. Because I figured if you gotta do that and be in that, and everybody's not that way. I'm not implying that's the way brokers are, but back in the 80s when I was doing it, it was a cutthroat business, and I just didn't want to make my career to be that way. So, there are other ways to do it.
Think about it this way, Matt. I mean, if you're a distributor or wholesaler, you are talking about sometimes a simple product 100 times a day to people on the buy side and the sell side. If you're worth your salt as a trader, you know immediately on a phone call what you can and can't do with somebody, right?
Yeah.
And most buyers, retail buyers, trust facilities, they're wearing a lot of hats. They do not. It's like walking into a gunfight with a freaking dull knife, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're trusting on your person. That person already knows on the other end what they can and can't do. They're trying to get out of you what they want, what they want you to do, and that's the ninja skills that you get trained at these great big trading floors, right?
Yeah.
Because they're not there to do things for free. So I think what you're saying is there at this point in time now with the skills, the tech that we have, everybody should be able to now have these skills to be able to know as fast and as quickly what the price is, that the same person on the other end of the phone knows what the price is.
Yeah. And if once you realize that a lot of the noise that gets in the market is used for the purpose of causing buyers to panic and get out of theof their norm. And the guy sent me an email this morning that said he put one of the quotes that I had from just couple of weeks ago was to just not to panic, to stay on target, to keep on track, and just stay focused, because you get shaken out of your game, and next thing you know, you've end up. That's what happens at every time we get a big disruption. The market gets way high, like with the $1,700 last year. The reason it crashed, everybody just got double bought. They just got scared out of a reality and out of normal behavior, and into doing things that were just freakishly abnormal. And it's like when you, I think when distractions come along and disruptions come along, they cause you to lose your focus. You start focusing on the distraction and the disruption. They're just like this thing, what's going on right now. Everybody's all twerked out of shape because of Canada's going to curtail some production. They lost some timber land for the indigenous species. The indigenous community wanted some more timber land, so the government's kind of pulled some timber away, and they got the flooding going on. They got transportation issues and the port issues, and it's all just kind of piling up, and to make people all of a sudden people think there's a fear of not having any lumber again. And what we see is like production is the same, supply is the same, and supply and demand kind of vacillate together. They don't get a big spread between them, but the prices get out of whack when people start trying to manipulate the market. And that's kind of what I want to just get everybody to do, is just keep cool and not to panic through these situations and get overbought and double bought and be creamed on the way down. Yeah,
no doubt. Well, that's a good thing, and look at, and that'll kind of segue into some of our next things. So, how should people get in touch with you, and what do you have coming up educationally that they should be signing up for?
Well, I've got the guys that help me do this to start with. I've done 3 classes called Lumber PhD, and I tell everybody by the time they get through the class, it was a 12-week session. When they get through the class, they'll have the equivalent of a Lumber PhD, because I know so much about the market. And what I realized over those 12 weeks was that I really didn't have 12 weeks worth of stuff to give. I mean, it wasn't that hard. But and my son was just pointing out a little while ago, he said if you could hone it down to like just six basic points, and then each week in the publication, keep driving those same points home. But I was telling this yesterday about in the publication that the comments that I write are just stories to tell you, to help you believe in the FDPs, the forecasted decision points, to trust in those things, and give you reasons why things are happening in the market. But the stories are always different. Just like when a buyer calls you and the buyer wants to tell you something, it's a story about why you should give them an order today. They may tell you not to buy this week, but they want to tell you they'll be on your butt for you to buy before you get a chance to talk to somebody else. But I'm gonna be redoing that Lumber PhD class into a more condensed and concise format, because I mean I had 75 people go through it the first time, and they were just real. There was one I tell the story that there was one day I was so frustrated with not being able to get the Zoom link to work. I told everybody, I said, look, I am in over my head. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going to cut this thing off, and I'm going to cut you guys off. This week's free. We'll do it next week. Start all over again. But I learned a lot through that process, and I learned a lot about what people want to know, need to know, and what I had to offer. So the next thing coming up is going to be a release of the fourth class of the lumber PhD. And we're probably going to start that after the first of the year.
A little better than a 2.8 before.
We were cutting out a little bit there, Matt, but let's do this because we'll segue over to talking about how you're going to get a little bit away from the pricing, but looking at forecasting. And I think if we kind of look at some of your forecasting, the charts look like they're doing what they said they were going to do, right? I mean,
Yep.
Let's take a look at your 12-month forecast.
Yep.
There we go. That's the 12-month from Thursday, from today. Is that the
Actually,
one?
that shows 2020, 2021, and it forecast out through 2022. What I didn't put on there, which I do show each week, is the FDP graph, which kind of implies the direction. So what you can see from that graph is that significant things happened pretty close to when those errors occurred. And the one thing that's kind of misleading on that graph is the October one from week number 38 to week number 45 was actually supposed to be a downtrend market and a downtrend in the market, and it reversed to went higher, but still it was a significant point in the market. It turned out to be an acceleration rather than a reversal, but we didn't know it at the time. But when I look back, it was the first miss over out of the last 7 FTPs. It was the only miss we had out of the 7 previous ones. So that increases the odds that the accuracy rate is 85%. When this FTP occurs, that it's either going to finish higher than when it started or finish lower when it started, whichever the direction is going to be, and it's right 85% of the time. And there's the way that's used, Ash, is it helps people position themselves with their inventory to be to eliminate buying high and take advantage of selling low. It's just basically it's kind of market fundamentals, but it's the only thing that's really out there that shows a forecast of when these things are likely to occur. These turning points are likely to occur.
Lost you there for a second, Matt. Hopefully it'll kick back in a second. There we go. Now you hear me. Let's go over to the week 48, Monday the 29th. It's just the Canadian spruce chart and take a look at it. If Nick, you could bring that one up. So you can see that big move off the bottom, week 33, 34. Anything that you want to talk to there? I mean, look at one of the things I'm seeing is futures are $150 over the cash price if you can find cash right now. The other thing that I'm hearing interesting is there's plenty of wood. It's just at the mills right now, and they're trying to get it shipped. So I heard that that's starting to open up again now, right? So the real question is this. Everybody that needed to buy wood for December is buying it right now. Talked to guys yesterday that in the Midwest here had swept the floors of their yards, didn't think a thing and they would come in, and they got a big influx of business again and had to cover stuff, right?
Yeah, since the builders couldn't get a 90-day lumber lock, what they did is they just committed for the lumber back in October instead of making a 90-day commitment, saying I want you to lock my number in. The suppliers were saying, well, if you want to lock the lumber, the price in, you're going to have to buy the lumber. And that's what happened in October. There was a 30-day purchase, so people bought a lot of wood, but all that wood sold. So right now, I think the LBM yards are not sitting in a highly speculative position. They've got what they've got sold, and the next round of buying is going to come from when builders say, yeah, give me another month's worth or another 2 months worth, and they'll buy it again. And we're just coming into winter. We've got this good rally going, and these guys haven't bought for spring yet, and that's their big time. So I think there's more buying coming.
So let's go. That sounds good. Let's go over to. I was looking at that chart. The next one I wanted to look at is interesting. Before I say that, so another person had a comment. They said they've heard this from a bunch of people that they need to keep buying because they heard the big boxes don't come in until the middle of December, and they're going to keep this propped up. So that's the new thing circulating out there right now. What say you to that, Matt?
Big boxes are not going to come by in a big splurge like they did last year. If you remember what happened last year, they got caught with a lot, but they bought just too much. But most of those guys are on contract or VMI programs where they have steady supply of lumber coming. They don't have to build up inventories for spring because the contracts and the VMI programs they have keep their inventories full all the time anyway. So it's not that you're not going to see them ramp up a whole bunch, but that's part of what's already happening. I think that's what that program's already started. But yeah, there is some truth to being able to. They do build inventory for spring, and December's a time when they will start that. So we will see some additional activity from just the nature of building inventory to prepare for spring. It's the preparation cycle comes before the demand cycle.
So this is interesting from Chris up in Wisconsin. GCs are contracting with me for spring jobs now. That's about 6 weeks earlier than the years past. That's great feedback, right? So, Chris frames up some pretty darn big stuff in Wisconsin, and these guys are getting in earlier, right? That makes a lot of sense.
Does that mean, Chris? Does that mean that they're just committing for their framing packages now?
Chris, if you could answer that, does that mean they're committing to pricing on their framing packages now, or just committing to building them?
Committing to ship dates and to be specific lumber packages?
Yeah, that'll be good if he can ring us back on that one. Here's a flat market, one that's not exciting. Maybe let's bring up the OSB market. If you can. So what I know there is let's see here. Yeah, what I see there is a pretty flat market. Thick panels have stayed up. Thin panels are kind of trading around. Why not the big move up in prices on that, Matt, with everything else?
Well, look at the FTP from 38 to 48. Look what the FTP suggested the market was going to do.
Flat.
Basically, it'll be flat. Now, what is it suggested it's going to do from 48 to 3, 3 to 13, and 3 to 20?
Yeah, if you should. So basically, if you look at the FTP right now, you should be loading up on OSB, at least the undervalued stuff. Yeah,
and the hard thing is going to be that I still don't think OSB's recovered from the resin problem it had last year. I think it's still trying to figure out who's going to get what, and we're not sure. The boxes did such a good year had a good time last year of having extra product and did well with it, and I don't think they really got caught with a whole lot. I think it was pretty much everybody in the country knew that Home Depot was a secondary source of supply for OSB for about 6 months, and if they can. It worked out well for them, and so the thing we don't know is how much contract wood these guys are going to take this time. They're going to get first look at it. I mean, the big 2 home centers, the big 2 or 3 contractor yards, going to get first look at everything, and whatever they want, they're going to get it. So they're probably in the process right now of getting those contracts together for the next year, or starting to take delivery of those spring needs.
So Chris basically said here they are, and I assume he meant that they are
being specific about their framing packages.
Yeah, they're locking into their framing packages and price 6 weeks earlier this year. Now, if you would have gone back and looked 2 weeks ago at the overvalued, undervalued charts that I keep up here in Excel and look at stuff and the price moves over the last 10 years, we literally started making the move almost the same week that we did last year at this time. And I think maybe, who knows where we're going to run to, but that was interesting. So great feedback there, Chris. Let's go over to the other market, Southern Yellow Pine, or first let's go Southern Yellow Pine. I bypassed that one, I believe.
Yeah, one of the things to look about Southern Pine is its value in relationship to everything else over a 10-year average and versus last year's prices this time of year. Southern Pine's about $200 higher than everything else. So Southern Pine usually trades within $150 to $100 of spruce. If you take like a delivered Atlanta price is what I used to look at. And it usually stayed around $50 plus or minus, but now Southern Pine's about $200 higher than everything else. And that's just a function of it's taking its place as the king of the lumber market, but just because of supply and new mills that are being bought by the Canadians, the new production that's coming online, which I don't want everybody to get all excited and think there's going to be a bunch of production that comes online here the first of the year, by the middle of the year. I mean, there's a lot of variables like, what are you going to do with all your byproducts? What are you going to do for drivers? What are you going to do for employees? And there's a lot of weak spots in the market that You can't just throw up a sawmill and say, okay, now you're going to just take all of our product and all of our extra needs that we have to run the mill and get rid of our byproduct like chips and all those other products that come off of it. But it's I don't think we're going to see 2 billion board feet just all of a sudden show up in Southern Pine. But right now, Southern Pine's taking the slack that the estimated 1 billion feet that Spruce is going to be taking off the table this year, and Southern Pine's stepping up and taking that market share.
That's perfect. And while Nick switches over to the framing composite index, I'm going to tack back to what Chris said here. He said multifamily owners first said they are buying the packages now, committing to price and schedules, and multifamily owners are primed to make quick decisions. That's some top information right there that you don't get unless you come to this thing, man. Chris, that really helps a lot of people out and can kind of explain some of the feeding frenzy that we're seeing right now, maybe a little early.
And you think about a multifamily job. These guys are doing 250, 400 units at a time. Those framing packages are $5 to $7 to $10 million worth of lumber every time they get one of those things, and they're popping off left and right. I've thought for years, because before I got real familiar with how the multifamily industry worked, that I thought we have to be overbuilding multifamily because there's just so much going on and so much lumber, and that sector I think gets kind of overlooked because one order just takes up so much lumber. And when you get somebody that commits to a whole framing package for an apartment complex and says, "Yeah, I want you to buy it all now," that's a big commitment. That's 6 months worth of lumber use that's getting bought at one time, and things are just getting bought ahead. And I'm not sure if it's going to be taking business from the future or not, but for the near term, through the first quarter, I think things look very strong for the lumber market. And unfortunately for you guys, we're going to see 4-digit lumber prices again by the first of the year.
You already see it, Matt. I was talking to guys selling 2x4 14s and 16s, already 4 digits they traded. One of the interesting things, people are locking in price right now by buying and holding. They're putting wood in the ground, right? And we're seeing that. We're really seeing that. I mean, one of our big users yesterday, I talked to him last night, and he said, yesterday was the day I didn't want to be off the market because it didn't really matter what price I put on stuff. If it was close, within $80 to $100 of last week's print, he was getting orders, right? And he goes, where a lot of people wanted to be off the market, he was hanging numbers on multifamily people. He was averaging up their packages for Q1 2022. They had bought 50 trucks of 104s. They wanted to average another 50 trucks in, and they were willing to pay more. So,
that's not speculative buying either. That's buying for jobs they're going to build.
That's buying.
They already have.
Yep, they're buying for jobs they're going to build, and now
what we can infer from that, Ash, is the market is not overbought. It's just pre-bought, and there's a big difference.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of wood sitting on the ground at places, and that's cool. That's a healthy market right now. So there's a big bite going on. All right, well, cool, Matt. We're right up against a half an hour. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to learning more about your educational objectives going forward. I think that's cool. I think that's giving back to the industry, and I think there's a lot of people here that want to pass on knowledge to people that don't know how, that they should join with these people and really sit in and monitor this. And also, you have some people that can other professors to come in and help train some people on some things that you may not know.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to too. I want to maybe we could probably use this platform for some of that as well. But I want to find other people that are better at products than I am. I could talk about some trading strategies, that kind of things, but there's a lot of people that know a lot of things about the lumber industry that they're specifically good at. So I'm kind of excited about where it's going to go.
All right, well, good deal. Again, this was Lunch with Lumbermen with Matt Layman and Ashley Boeckholt from Materials Exchange. We'll look forward to join us on our Friday Smart Call tomorrow. You can go to LinkedIn and see the information on that. And Matt and I will resume next Thursday. But have a great weekend, Matt, and look forward to talking to you soon.
Thanks, buddy. Have a good day. Thank you all for coming.
Yep, you bet.